everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome back to another episode of Millennial 360. So today's a very special episode, but yeah, with my usual co-host, we have John, and we have a very special guest here. We have Fabio from Long Island, as you know, if you've ever seen or heard about him. So welcome everyone, and yeah, as promised, as every week, we have so many talking points. A lot has happened with our beloved club over the past week. Not all of it good, some of it very controversial, but yeah, we're willing to really give you our takes and really dive down into what we think is boiling under this turbulent waters of the club. But before that, we're probably going to start off with a somewhat of a unpleasant note. And this was our Champions League performance against Dortmund. So we haven't reviewed this game yet. Uh, yeah, the score. I think again, like, just to kick things off, I really thought that we could actually pull this off because we were actually playing at home, uh, with a lot of fan support behind us. So keep in mind is that when we went to play away at Dortmund, it was 0-0. I thought on the grand scheme of things, the game was pretty balanced when we played it at the stadium. But when we played them at our house, what can I say? It's not just the scoreline, but a lot that happened during the game. I mean, just to hit things off, John, where do you think this game really started to turn? Because yeah, I mean, we were in it at the end of the first half. But what do you think it started to slip away from us?
Yeah. So obviously Giroud missed his pen. This is something that a lot of people forget quite quickly. Chukwueze took a shot that was stopped by a player with his arm, and a handball was given. Giroud had a penalty, and it was a pretty poor penalty. Um, so that was our first opportunity, guys. To stamp our, we wanted this win, and then on 8 minutes, and I'll go back to this all the time. Calabria got absolutely cooked, and he gave away a really lame penalty. And Royce, being the absolute professional that he is, slotted it away really well. Throughout the night, if you watch the game, Marlon was giving Calabria nightmares. Such a strange thing that he's handled Mbappe quite well and then handled Cavara quite well. But Marlon seems to have his number. Every single match, you can see that he's taken to the cleaners by him. Um, so, yeah.
Not just him, even the guy that replaced him, who ends up getting the third goal,
Yeah.
kind of cooks both of the right side.
So on 36 minutes, Chucky showed us what he was signed for. He did something that was really incredible. He cut in and fired a nice hard shot in, scored a goal. 58th minute, however, Calabria got cooked. He got drawn to the ball and left this young English kid, Binoe Gittens, free to basically slot it into the side of Manyan. And then on 68 minutes, someone called Adiemi got space
Yeah,
again from Calabria. He just did Calabria, fired. In my opinion, Manyan should have stopped that as well. But in the middle of the game, you asked me what was the turning point. When it was 1-1, what happened, guys? Chow came off injured. It's a very severe injury, as it turns out. And the genius
say
that
it,
is
say
Pioli, the genius that is Pioli decided Krunic is a centre back. And guys, what was really funny is that if I was watching it on a live stream and the conversation was like this, guys, well, Krunic is warming up. And they're like, oh, maybe he's changing to three at the back. And all of a sudden it's like, why is Krunic talking to Tomori? It was almost funny, guys. If it wasn't a club, we'd be laughing out loud because it, I mean, yeah, everything collapsed. But I would have to say, my personal opinion, the worst player of the game was Calabria. He got cooked time and again. So, Fabio, please let us know what you thought about that.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, the turning point is definitely Chow getting hurt, and yeah, why would you bring in your utility fucking Swiss Army knife there? You think this guy, not only can he play striker, left wing, attacking cam. I mean, this guy could do everything. Let's put him at center back, despite having, you know, damn. And this is really like bad luck. We were mentioning it on the pregame chat. Like, we have no center back on the bench. Like, how do you allow no center back to be on the bench going into a Champions League game. Now, like, you can bring up Primavera players, right? Because they were able to put, I believe, I don't know if Traore was on there before, but again, even later in the week, why we don't even look to our Primavera players that we played in the preseason. Simic could have been somebody that should be on the bench. Maybe you can't put him on the roster. I don't know. But I would have just said, put in Florenzi, put in Batazagi, which I believe was on the bench.
Yeah,
At least they're
Batasagi was there.
defenders. Why the hell Batazagi is, I don't know. This kid's a quota because he has no intention of ever playing. So that's another Pioli fucking mind game that he plays there. But honestly, the defense looked like shambles. And it's exactly what we worried in the preseason. Things that like were there in August and July, they're all coming to fruition now. We all should have expected the injuries to eventually creep on us because they always do. But to have our defense look so shaky this year, and within a matter of 10 minutes in this game, we're looking at a Champions League exit, finishing bottom of our group. And again, this fucking conversation that we're going to have until June because it is the scapegoat of this season. Pioli is there, so we all have an excuse to explain why this season didn't go the way it was supposed to. He's a lame duck manager, no matter what he can do, unless with the exception of pulling out a miracle Scudetto. This guy's going to be fired in June. It's going to happen. There's no point of arguing and hoping it happens in December because unless you want to see Bonera or Abate get called up, which they're not going to do because he's not doing well with the Primavera in their Campeonato. Actually, only during the the UEFA Youth League do they actually play well. We're going to deal with Pioli for the whole game. And honestly, it's baffling why Calabria is having this Lazio-like Jekyll and Hyde when he plays well against insane competition. The Cavaglia, whatever the fuck his name is, the way he was crowned the new jewel of City A last year. But Calabria can kind of keep him in his pocket. You play against Mbappe. Mbappe, you hold him at home. But home for us this season, there's no home advantage for us. No matter how much the Curva Sud and all the fans in the full 70+ thousand, they cannot do anything to lift this team up because the team, once things go bad, they do not know how to take a bunch and fight. This is not the team that from a year or 2 years ago, every time they give up a goal, they come back and score two. This team doesn't have that capability. They were playing really well at the end of the first half, and they looked like they had some momentum, but that momentum was not there in the second half. And as soon as things go haywire, they go from bad to holy shit, this is a dumpster fire immediately.
Yeah, on that, I just want to ask you, Fabio, because you mentioned about the Primavera, and I know that online is a big talking point about why our Primavera is so severely underutilized. And if you look at as everyone knows, in terms of the youth league, we're doing quite well. So by the way, we could have completely ravished that Primavera team, and they lost, and they could have just lost that game, and it wouldn't matter. But do you think that the gulf in quality is so big that Pioli is definitely not willing to risk it, that no Primavera player can even play 45 minutes in that position? Do you think the gap is there? Because you watched some Primavera games, yeah? At least? They're not bad.
Yeah, we have a few. No, and again, they gave up the lead to Dortmund on their game, and they came back and won 4-1, right? So almost the complete opposite of what the senior team did, right? So to me, I think it's like this. I'm going to be a little graphic here. Excuse me. All right. Pioli, despite being married for 20 years, still wraps it up. Okay. That's how safe this guy is. He would rather play Krunic out of position 4 million times over before he gives a youth guy a chance. This is what I'm saying. Bartezaghi is there because he's Italian, and that's it. There's no chance of him ever playing unless Theo Hernandez is struck by lightning on the field. There's not a chance in hell he's getting on that field. So to me, I think that Pioli is just one of these guys. He plays it safe. He probably wears a helmet when he drives his car.
Stop it.
That's what I think. No, I'm telling you, this guy, he has no faith. He has no balls to go out there and do something and really think outside the box. The guy's in the box and he's fucking zip tied and closed. There's no way he's giving any youth a chance until he's basically forced into it, right? Just like Chow, just like Kalulu, right? There's probably 3 or 4 other guys I'm not remembering off the top of my head. But these guys were just going to sit and rot on the bench until he was forced. His hand was forced to do something. So for me, and yeah, maybe we're just grasping at straws there, hoping for anything to happen. But, I mean, this is the coach, man. You see them every day. If you don't see some fire in them, something to push the other starters, why are they on your bench? We don't need bench fillers, all right? If you need a bench filler, you call Fabio. I can perfectly sit on the bench. I look funny. I can talk. I'm humorous. I'll make everybody laugh. You don't need guys like me, all right? You need guys who are going to push the starters. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. John, this is something that I wanted to ask you. Is that it's about Chukwueze. And yeah, Chukwueze as the most potent attacking threat during the game, I think no one can deny it. But my concern is beyond this game, yeah? And if you see how Chukwueze played and what he's capable of, so that's everything he has in his locker.
Yeah.
But now that we're seeing that, okay, Liao might be back quite soon. Pulisic, I think he's doing quite okay. What then happens to a player like Chukwueze, and how do you think his form will be?
Pulisic will go back to the right. Leao will always be started. And the question is, Chukwueze is going to be a sacrificial lamb that's cost us over 20 million. My opinion.
Okay. So yeah,
I would just say that Pulisic has not done enough on the left side to warrant him even talked about. Like, you can cover for Leao, but he's not the left winger anymore. He might do it on the U.S. team and stuff like that. He's played better on the right, which is insane to say because that is not his position. But he seemed to adapt well with the team and the chemistry and our league playing on the right side. Has he been better than Chukwueze? Yes. But the league is so long with all these games that Chukwueze still has an opportunity to show his worth. And it's like he's finally getting the confidence to do it. The only problem is that Chukwueze is always stuck with not a full roster around him. He doesn't have Leao on the opposite side. Sometimes he doesn't have Giroud up top. He has to deal with Jovic. You know, and sometimes the midfield is a mishmash of people who knows what he's getting when he's in the game. Especially when you bring him on in the second half. You have to, the other substitutions, you don't know what the fuck Pioli's putting them on there for. And that's more. The next game we talk about, that was just a little baffled. But
I'll give you a bit of hope, okay? I'll give you a little bit of hope, Hasni. If we go back to 4-2-3-1, now that Benny's back, Pulisic might be able to do a job in the middle, right? And then you can fit Chucky on the right. I'm just going to say that.
Okay, yeah, well, I agree. That's if he doesn't put Ruben Loftus-Cheek as number 10.
No. see, that's the thing. It's that I would put Loftus-Cheek either... First of all, we got to talk about something that I think is going to upset some people. Tijani Reindeers has regressed. He's regressed.
Fabio, he needs to be... He could be benched and Ruben Loftus-Cheek could take that position.
That's what I would say. I would say Loftus-Cheek, if he can play in that double pivot role with Benacer, immediately becomes a starter. And then you basically sub in Benacer and Musa. Reindeers and Musa when they need a chance to take a break. Because honestly, I need to see Pulisic in the game. And if Chukwueze is playing good, yeah, you have to make some stuff. But Pioli is so fucking stubborn, man. He's so stubborn. He's not good. He's going to keep doing the 4-3-3. He doesn't care. He's going to wrap it up. I mean, the guy's he's fucking dick-headed.
Yeah, but you gotta admit it, Fabio. He's taking his entire reputation right at this moment on that
reputation.
Saying that, yeah, he's right, man.
Yeah, don't think there is much left.
Saying that, I think I made a mistake. I'm going back to 4-2-3-1. This is his players, his team, his formation. No interference.
Honestly, but I can appreciate somebody who says, you know what? I made a mistake. Let me change. When the God Almighty Maldini went out there, him and Masada went and found Gianpaolo. At least within 2 months, they said, you know what? We made a big fucking mistake here. We need to make a change right now. I can appreciate that. I'd rather you make the change and face the fact you might struggle right now than to continue with a sinking ship. And that's what I think, unfortunately, we're dealing with. But we're dealing with that because that is the plan. That is the plan for this season, because if it doesn't go well, that bald prick is getting all the blame, and then we'll start fresh again next season, probably without Champions League or something awful. So to me, make a change. You see something's not working, go back to what was working. Try something else. Maybe not a 4-2-2 like you did that one game against Udinese. You fucked us completely. But go back to the formation your team was playing well at. It's just, what are we going to do about the injuries? The injuries are a whole nother fucking issue. Doesn't matter who you got out there. All right? You could put Stevie Wonder out there. He's not scoring no goals. You know what I'm saying? If everybody's hurt, it's just, you need something good. And right now, it seems like everything bad is happening. For every one good thing, 4 other bad things are coming. That's not a good fucking ratio.
Yeah, but I mean, if you talk about being wrong, this is the next game that we played yesterday. Jovic, who is arguable to have put a man of the match performance yesterday.
Yeah.
He did. He
Yeah.
did.
Proved a lot of people wrong. I mean, this guy has been labeled as the new Origi or Furlani's Origi because they can't pin it on Maldini anymore. But I mean, John, talk us through this game. How surprised were you, and how impressed have you been?
Well,
this is the Jovic you've been waiting for.
I am known for being the guy that backed Jovic to score a goal. I am known as being the guy, and I did put money on him. So thank you very much, Jovic. So I'll say that the first half was pretty horrible to watch. So if you missed the first half, you did a good job.
Yeah, very boring.
There was a lot of cancelling each other out going on. Frosinone were very well set up. But on the 43rd minute, Chucky basically fired the ball in, caused a bit of panic, and Jovic was right there, took the ball on the half volley really well, and scored a nice goal. On the second half, we did a good... Paul. Well done, Paul, for putting money on Jovic as well. Nice to see his comment there. On 50th minute, Manyan launched a high ball, and Pulisic, I've described it as Messi-esque. His control on that ball when it came over his shoulder was just out of this world. He took it straight into his stride, which just cut the defender out completely. And then he did a lovely finish as well. And trying to remember, who scored the third goal, guys?
Tomori.
Tomori. And it was a Jovic.
Assist by Jovic.
Jovic headed it back into the box, and Tomori was right there, right? So, good. And then, of course, we conceded one goal later on. But
to our former player.
Former player.
I cannot believe how often this happens to our club. But Fabio.
And
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, and that was pretty shitty on Mike's part, just have to say. I'm going to skewer his ass when we do the ratings later in the week. But yeah, I mean, but not bad, honestly. Great to see them turn out a good victory, especially, like you said, a boring first half that basically, until the last few minutes, we finally took control of the game. Pulisic comes out. What a great goal. Come on, baby! USA! You know, I fucking love hearing Mauro say that. And then, of course, I mean, great play on heading it back right in front to Tomori there by Jovic. Jovic shut everybody up today. He seems to be his biggest fan on Twitter as well. I love that he talks shit. That's really interesting. But it's just a little upsetting that you give up the clean sheet on such a stupid goal, which probably Mignon thought somebody was going to get a head onto.
Yeah.
But he just basically let it get into the corner. So
yeah.
But 3-1, I mean, all things considered, man, I don't give a fuck if it would have been 3-2. As long as we turn out the 3 points, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Big okay, but Fabio, what I wanted to ask you is that in terms of this, the game that we played, the way that I saw it is that a lot of that was usually our second string or, the less than desired lineup and formation. So do you think even with these players, for example, like Jovic, starting, could he be a player for those teams for the bottom half of the table? Because I've always been pushing forward that we should have a team that should be out against the bottom half of the table, and we shouldn't have to worry. Jovic should be that guy, for example. But there are many other players there as well. For example, Pobega, he also had an appearance and all that. You could say that they didn't make such a big mistake that cost us the game. But we need to have such players, right?
Honestly, Paul's making a hilarious comment there, but a little confusing on the substitutes, and maybe it's the lack of depth there that is the reason why we're just bringing anybody in. But Pobega is not a defensive guy; he's more offensive, if anything. So I don't know why we're bringing him in. Very happy to see Benacer back. They gave him a great ovation when he came on. But again, Benacer, you know, 3-0 up. I know you want to give him some time, but why like the 15 minutes at the end? Then we start throwing in every fucking youngster
Yeah,
that we
come on.
have on. But one,
But
but
one.
one, and I'll give you but one. I'll tell you which one didn't come on.
Yeah.
The guy who has no reason to be here except that he's Italian. That's it. But you know they put on Kamada again. Why not give the fucking kid more than 7 minutes at the end? Like, give me a fucking break. And then they put on Traore, I believe they put him
Mhm.
on
Yeah,
for Pulisic
Secretary.
on.
I think Adli
Yeah.
also
You
came
know,
on. Yeah.
and he hasn't really, unfortunately, done anything. He's been basically wasting away his 10-minute chances. So again, substitutions wise, you know, I wish we had more defensive minded guys that we could have brought
We
on.
could have brought on
Obviously, we're
Simic.
lacking. God forbid, a fucking center back. But everybody says that coaches and center backs bringing them on in the middle of a game, always very like, they're very much nervous about it, kind of disrupting their back line. And all things considered, we have to give props to Theo Hernandez. Yeah, honestly, I would agree with Paul. Kamada did not need to come on.
Mm.
But if you were going to bring him on, give him the last 15 minutes at least, Prior to them getting that first goal, we were 3-0 up at that point. Give the kid the last 20 minutes. He has a good opportunity that he's free away, and they don't even give the guy a yellow card. Are you fucking kidding me? And then they call a foul on him. I mean, this refs or something else. I mean, Serie A is really always. But honestly, I just hope the depth gets better. If you're going to bring these young guys, you have to give them more of a chance than the last 7 minutes of a fucking game. Let it get a chance out there. Imagine if Kamada would have actually scored a goal at the end of this game. How much over the top nonsense that we would be talking today. The 15-year-old scores a goal. We win 4-0. Blah 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 blah. But no, instead it's like we do get the 3 points, and that's all that matters. We don't keep a clean sheet, which sucks. But other than that, 3 points is all that matters at this point. We don't have the luxury of worrying about how we're playing, if it's pretty. Go ask Juve if they give a fuck about how they're playing. All they care about is the 3 points, and they're sitting on top of the table at least for a few more hours.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I want to add something. I'll ask this for you, John. But what your take is on this? If we have these young players like Kamada and Chakatare coming on, firstly, they're deprived of game time because they're not playing in Primavera, so they're on the bench. Yeah. So I know they're training with the team and everything, but they're on the bench.
Primavera lost.
So, yeah, and essentially you could say that we risked the Primavera score for this particular game. Fine. I guess it makes sense that we're more concerned about the men's team, the senior men's squad. But what do you think then is the right thing to do? Because is it detrimental to these players who should be our future stars that they are being called, getting a bit of limelight, but essentially there's no development. Yeah? It's a backstop at the expense of how they are developing as players.
No, I there has to be a longer term vision for the club, and we'll discuss it later on, right? On some of Maldini's comments. But we did go 3-0 up. So that was the green light to bring on anyone that you wanted. We should have brought in Simic at that point. When we went 3-0 up, we had a good amount of time left. Start to make the changes. Give these kids time. I don't actually agree with, Theo did an okay job, right? And apparently he asked Pioli. So Pioli was like, all right, then, that's how it works, right? But Simic is a player that is supposed to be the future. He is filled out. If you look at him, he's a unit. He's a real unit of a human being. So let's see what he can do. That would be my attitude to it. And we do have really exciting players. We're never going to see them. We're going to end up selling them if we keep doing this. We have to integrate them. So some people are saying, wait until the Coppa Italia starts in January. And because then we will need more rotation. We might see Jovic again.
Pioli has never done that in the Coppa Italia even. He's always
That's right.
strong.
This is, hasn't he? You've taken the words out of my mouth. So that's what some people are saying, that, but it doesn't go to form with the guy. So we'll see if the pressure starts to build on him because he can't keep doing what he's doing, which is using the same players 60, 70 minutes. They will break down. It's been happening, and we're going to discuss it now anyway, the injury problem.
Okay, so move on to our next segment. Is that it's a topic that I wouldn't say it's a new topic. We speak about this like every season, yeah, not just in the recent years, but even before purely. It's constant feature of our Milan squad is that we cannot seem to have everyone on the bench or on the pitch. Someone always has to be out, and I'm excluding some cases that maybe you would expect. For example, Zlatan of last season. So fine, yeah, he's at such an age you probably wouldn't expect it, wouldn't mind it. But our core players, and I don't need to read out all the names, but I haven't seen Kalulu in a while. I don't even remember what he looks like. Maybe Kia is also another guy that I haven't seen. We have players that have gone missing or been injured for so long. You cannot. You'll be surprised to know that they're still in the team. So yeah, I mean, John, you've done quite a bit of read up and also write up about this. I mean, where do you think we're going with all this?
I'll try and do share screen, okay, guys? Sure. Please tell me if it looks, you can see it.
Yep.
Right? Can you see it? So I can't see comments either, guys. So one of the things, I thought this would be an opportunity to talk about the history because we are not just any club, guys. My opinion is always, historically, we are a groundbreaking club. We've made changes even to the science on how players should be treated. And so this is a great opportunity to discuss where we are right now, but let's talk a little bit about the history and why we love this club so much. So there's a lot of talk in the media about Milan Lab and what is it today versus how was it. So Milan Lab was established in 2002 by a Belgian chiropractor, Jean-Pierre Messerman. Now, in his opinion, when asked what is chiropractic, he would say it's a science and the art and philosophy of all things natural, which sounds a little bit, fluffy, right? But he says that nowadays chiropractors focus on the musculoskeletal system. Now, what he did when he came in, something had happened to Milan. And what had happened is that we had signed a player from Real Madrid, if you remember, Redondo. We paid over $30 million for the guy. And when he signed, we sent 10 to 12 different specialists to look at him. And he said from his head to his toes, and he was in perfect condition. And then, whilst walking on a treadmill, he tore a muscle. And he had never seen that happening before. And the guy never came back.
Yeah, so keep in mind that 30 million those days is a hell of a lot of money.
It's a hell of a lot more than it is today. That's right.
Yeah.
And so what Jean-Pierre Messerman set up was a system whereby he literally collected data non-stop to try and understand in a different way, not try and understand how players got injured. But what he did was try and understand what their numbers look like in terms of their chemistry and their bodies when they were healthy and fit. And so what he did was take over 1.2 million tests at Milan. He scanned 540 athletes every 15 days for 6 years. And what's really different about his approach, he's used stomatology. Now, I wondered what stomatology was, and crazily, and this feeds onto the stories that we're about to tell you, is that he looked at the health of the oral health of those players as well. That was also part of his theories. Now, if you ask him today, how is it possible that this approach worked? Because normal medicine would say that it doesn't fit in evidence-based medicine. And you know what he said? He says, I don't give a damn. You judge me on my results. So the first player to have the Jean-Pierre Messerman treatment, one of them was Seedorf. So he says in one of his stories, Seedorf came to him and he had groin pains and his performances were really dropping. He'd been having groin pains for a year and a half. He couldn't practice. And so Jean-Pierre Messerman kind of used his holistic approach, his entire body approach, and said, we're going to have to remove your wisdom teeth. His groin immediately improved and helped to rebuild his career.
Sorry to stop you.
Hold
Fabio,
hold on.
Yeah.
No, I mean, how do we relate your wisdom teeth with your groin? I mean, talk about having your mouth in areas that it doesn't belong. I mean, what the fuck are we talking about
I'm
here?
No,
telling you,
I was thinking along the same lines because that was the Berlusconi era. Okay, you could say it's peak Berlusconi era.
yes,
Bunga bunga parties, all sorts of things.
That's true. I'm sure they were putting their mouth where it did not belong. And this guy right here, talk about oral hygiene. This guy's whole move was deterred because of his teeth. He
correct.
must have went to the dentist and they started saying, "Hell no, the deal is off."
That's
Too
right.
many cavities or whatever the scenario was.
That's right. So this kind of showed the power of Jean-Pierre Messerman. When players were signed, the last signature was the CEO, so Adriano Galliani, but the signature before his was always Jean-Pierre Messerman's, and he vetoed the signing of Sissoko because of his dental issues. And Sissoko independently confirms this. Now, Milan Lab, if you want to say it to the absolute limit, guys, Milan Lab and its data generation and data collection approach enabled us in 2007 to win a Champions League final with what was at the time the oldest squad in the history of the Champions League. Maldini, Costa Curta, their careers went into their 40s. Cafu also, when he first signed, was in his early 30s, and this approach enabled his career to be extended by another 5 years. Milan Lab, however, he did leave Milan Lab, and the project was stopped in 2010. So the name still exists today, okay, and it's still being applied in the athletic sector, but not in the medical sector properly. So why did Milan Lab cease to exist? And Jean-Pierre Mercerman says, when things go well, sometimes you believe you can start to cut things. And one of the stories he gives, which is incredible, is that he believed that the players needed to eat carbohydrates within 20 minutes after a game. And so he had spaghetti brought to them in the changing rooms. And it was a hassle to do so, but it worked. But then Milan Lab, the Milan club, so successful, they started to cut here, cut there. And before you know it, the actual system stopped working. So today, Milan Lab, if you search it, the name does exist, but it's led by Stefano Mazzoni. And you can look it up. There's videos out there regarding how Milan Lab currently works. And what's interesting is that their job is to monitor the health of players and their muscles and their injury status and recovery. And they say that they use the latest generation of data analytics to collect the information and use it to improve results. My argument is that it obviously is not working. So we have to look at what was being done before historically and what is being done now, which is a much more traditional type of medicine approach. Now, in the Gazzetta, they bring up this guy. Have you guys heard of him, by the way? Matteo Osti.
No, but yeah, I see him in the videos and he's in training videos.
Yeah. So he has been with Pioli since 2011. And he is the individual, when you hear on the press, he is defending his staff, his athletic staff. This is the guy. He's been with him since 2011. He is the preparatore atletico, or athletic trainer, or sports trainer, as you call him. What we have to say, and yes, of course, the season that we won the league, he won the golden chronograph, which is basically like a prize for the best trainer in Serie A. But what I wanted to show you guys was this table. And this is taken from, I'm going to give credit to Radio Rossonera. What I've done is I've pulled out all of the other information, only left here the most important information. Can you see the 4 boxes which are in orange? These are the seasons that Pioli has been in charge of Milan. And I want you to see the games missed due to muscle injuries. In 2017, 49,
We can't see that, John. We can't see it.
You cannot?
I can't. I don't know if
Okay.
Huston can.
I can,
Okay.
I can. It's on
So-
the screen.
Okay.
All right. In 2017, there's 49 injuries due to muscle injuries. 2018, 44 games missed due to muscle injuries. 2019, 42 games missed due to muscle injuries. We switch to 2020. Pioli comes in. 86 games missed due to muscle injuries. 2021 season, 94. 2022 season, 105. And if we look at the current season, we've only played 17 games, and this is crucial. Only in 17 games, we've missed a total of 50 games due to muscle injuries. So, and the number of players with muscle injuries is interesting too. it starts to climb as Pioli has arrived. And in 17 games only this season, we've missed 13 players have picked up muscle injuries. So one would argue that the individual we need to look at closely is Matteo Osti and also Milan Lab. That would probably be the best kind of like pointer of who we should be going to. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I just want to add in on that particular last slide is that one of the big things that happened during Pioli's reign was actually during that COVID break. So if you see the numbers are climbing or are still high, despite the fact that players haven't played in what? How long was the lockdown? Like 4 months or something like that.
Mm.
Really makes you wonder is that, even with the compressed amount of time, what is going on? You have players that essentially, okay, can we argue that more packed schedule of games, but then the numbers don't lie. It doesn't make sense at all. But why we have this number of injuries, and whether it's related to the player itself, I don't know. Because as you know, yeah, whenever we sign a player, they go through all this medical. I don't know how none of this is picked up. I don't think. Have we even had a player recently that has been rejected due to the injury record? No, actually, I think we've bought more injury-prone players quite recently as well. So
I think that's one of the requirements for us to go after them.
yeah,
They need to have a good
Exactly,
injury.
yeah.
They need to have a long
Yeah.
injury record. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
but a lot of it just doesn't make sense. And yeah, what you said, I completely agree with you, John. Not only is because of the how we're handling these injuries, but also of what's happening on the pitch and how the training is being done. I know a lot of you guys out there, you actually watch the training videos. If you ask me, I don't think that's anything out of the ordinary. Then again, I know they're not showing the entire video, but it should not be at this level because we are in a competition. We're in a competition against other clubs. If other clubs are not facing the same issues, then why are we? So, I mean, Fabi, I don't know if you think that this is really an issue that can be resolved, or
To be
is this
honest,
also part of the purely out argument?
to be honest, I'm not gonna try to sit up here and say I really understand much of it, but there is something to be said about the way we press. That we press quite often. People have said that maybe it's the style in which we press and how often we press. We're putting too much stress on our starters. Pioli does have a tendency to make quite late substitutions, so maybe that extra 10, 15 minutes that you're putting these players to keep pressing late into the game is putting them in a bad situation. Uh, Maybe it's because they haven't cleaned their ears. Maybe they got to clean their ears, and all of a sudden their muscle fatigue goes away. Maybe they haven't flossed their teeth, and their knees feel better. Who the fuck knows anymore? All I know is that something's got to change, and if Pioli doesn't want to hold nobody accountable, especially his boy that has been riding with for 12 years, I mean, who's going to be responsible? Again, it's going to go back to him, but to me, it's definitely it's probably not the way, there is something to be said about the pitch at Milanello. Seems to have a bad rap. People seem to not like really training there. Something about it. Plus, Pioli's pressing every game, the way we keep having to have, and plus, yes, we have a way young squad most of the time, but then we have the oldest guy in the pitch running and pressing the most, like the whole game. So it's like we're lucky he hasn't gone out eventually. But, maybe this is why you see Leao kind of lethargic at times, where he's not running around pressing the full game, is because we're going to kill this kid at like 24 if we keep making him do this. And there goes that $100 million tag. So it's to me, it's a combination of everything. Of course, as soon as you see any sort of success, the smart thing is to start skimping everywhere. Really fucking smart, Milan. So listen, I don't care what you need to do. Go crack open a can of Chef Boyardee and give it to them as soon as they come out of the fucking pitch. Just get these guys to a point where they can be healthy, because your best ability is availability. And unfortunately, we don't have it. We don't have it in defense. We don't have it at striker. And pretty soon, all of our guys that we bought in the summer are all going to get hurt, right? This is what we all fear, is they're injury prone. Well, you came to the worst fucking environment that's going to push you to your brink, make you play the full 90 minutes, so in the 89th minute, your fucking knee explodes. Thank you, Pioli. So it's a combination, man, but it all starts at the top. And Pioli, when you're pressing them, you're killing them. Not every team needs a full press, man. Let these bum-ass teams have the possession a little bit and steal the ball when they try to get through your midfield. Instead, we're running around like chickens with no heads, trying to stop everything, and then we wonder why guys are breaking down every fucking 3-4 weeks.
Yeah, you raised some good points there, Fabio, because if we're doing as what Pioli intended, I don't think we should be struggling in those games that we've been struggling. It doesn't make sense. But I just want to add on, and before this pod, I actually took a look at Real Madrid's injury record. They have a number of injuries too, and some long ones. But for
They
them,
dropped
it's
the
mostly
hammer.
about
They dropped the hammer this season too. They weren't fucking
But theirs
around.
also follows something consistent. Theirs is about joint injuries. They have guys torn ACLs, some tendons. Those are the sort of injuries that they're facing. But for us, it seems to be purely consistent across this muscle.
We got muscle fatigue from guys who are not playing. What muscle are you fatigued? Your ass cheeks? You're sitting down. You're not doing anything. I mean, how about the fact that we go get 18-year-olds? 18-year-olds. I don't know about you guys. We're all a little up in age. But at 18, I was in my best shape I've ever been in my life. We buy 18-year-olds who cannot get to the pitch because they're not healthy. They're not ready. Thank you for buying these players.
So thanks for that. And yeah, very insightful, John. But absolutely, unbelievable what's going on at our club. But let's move on to the next segment and what's another thing from outside the club that's affecting us, which I think be quite contentious. A name that many of us hold dear. Let's face it, he's a legend. A lot of us look up to him. But he came out scathing. I wouldn't say against the club, but against the ownership. So,
all right.
John, I know you have
two fuckers got it the worst in this interview.
All right, let's go. So this is a good one. First of all, I want to give credit to my honorary sister Elisa. I know you're watching. Thank you. She's helped me with the Italian colloquialism. So it's sometimes we say certain things, and if you translate them direct, they don't quite make sense, right? So she's helped me out living in Italy, and so here we go.
Thank you. Thanks from the rest of us.
Yes. So what I've done here is this is the article between Enrico Curro, which was an interview between him and Maldini on La Repubblica. It was published. And here are the various questions. Now, you guys pick which question you want to get the answer from on the interview, and then we can work our way around.
Can we just get that messy one out of the way? Because it's a waste of time. We were never going to be able to afford his salary. What kind of bullshit is this even being brought up?
So, can you confirm you tried to sign Messi? And Maldini's answer was, after Barcelona, he was actually on a free, and based on our financial projections, it would have been worth the apparent pain of financial outlay, also considering the growth decree that we have in Italy. However, Leonardo told us that PSG was ahead already, so it just remained an idea.
So hang on. So that being said, I mean, if I read into those words, if PSG wasn't in the picture, he would have been a Milan player. Is that what he's saying?
Maldini's saying that he thought the financial models seem to indicate that even though the cost, we could have recouped it. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, if that's what I said, because if you ask me, and this is the same point about Dybala, right? I mean, a lot of people were against Dybala last season because, sorry, did he join last season or this season with Roma? Well, whenever it was.
Last season, I believe.
I think it was last season.
So he came at a very high salary point. But what was pointed out a lot in the media is that Roma managed to essentially pay his salary through merchandise sales. So if that can happen to Dybala, think about what sort of merchandise or at least viewership we'll get from Messi. I mean, it would have been good for the league, let's face it. If Messi plays for Sierra, it would have actually been good for the league, not just for us.
Especially because I believe that was the same time Ronaldo was running back to Manchester United. So he would have been taking over as the king of Serie A. And it would have been perfect because it would have coincided with us actually taking the next step. He probably saw Ibrahimovic there and said, yeah, no, I'm good. I'm going to go to PSG where he's not there. I think it's that snake Leonardo. He fucked everything up.
Right.
Yeah, but fair point. Yeah, it was a dream. Nice to think about it if it would happen. But yeah, I guess we have to move on with our lives.
Hasn't it? You got the next pick. Let's do one each.
I actually want to ask about where is that Scaroni. I thought this was quite
Scaroni.
a little bit of a personal attack because he was saying Scaroni is the guy who's
Okay, you
only
want to
there
see
when we win.
Scaroni? Let's do
Yeah,
Scaroni. Let's click on
yeah.
Scaroni. So Scaroni says the working group is united without you.
Sorry, John. When you click, I don't think it goes to any thing, but yeah, you can just go ahead and read it out. It's fine.
I'll tell you. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
So Maldini says it bothers me how things are reported. Milan deserves a president that only does things for the interest of the club and executives that don't leave the squad alone. He never asked if the players of the working group needed encouragement. I saw him often leave games when opponents scored equalizers or went ahead, maybe to avoid traffic. But he was very punctual and first in line when we won the Scudetto. I have different concepts to what a group and sharing means. I can say the same about Gazidis and Furlani. That was the answer. What have you got to say about that one, eh? That was harsh.
Yeah, I think this also is bordering on a personal attack. I guess if there's anyone, which I think it leads to maybe some of the other points about between him and Furlani, it would be more between him and Scaroni than Furlani. But then again, Scaroni is more of like the stadium. If I understand his role, is more of the stadium and that level of. It's not really involved in the direct day to day of the club. I mean, probably I don't know if you have the same opinion or not.
I just think like the whole optics of you leaving early. You know, I said it
Because you
on
only
Wednesday.
say that
Like,
to slander a guy, right? To really like
yeah,
put the
definitely.
man down.
First of all, why are you leaving early? You ain't driving. You don't got to sit in fucking traffic, you cocksucker. Sit there and fucking wait like everybody else. It's a bad optic you're leaving early. It looks like you have no faith. But honestly, Scaroni's like the least of the people that you even pay attention to when it comes to like the management portion. He's just the president. I'm not going to slander the guy too much because he did come to the New York City club and give the club some time. So I'm going to give him a benefit of the doubt for that one, at least recognizing that New York City was important. We appreciate that. We love you, President Scaroni. But yeah, that's to me. It's again, Maldini is just lighting the fire. I think the stuff that he says towards Furlani feels like that's more of a shot than Scaroni. Scaroni, you know, he's just the guy at the top who's probably trying to be extra in the celebrations. Like he said, he was there front and center for the Scudetto celebration, but he's not doing shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay, Fabio, next one. You pick.
Let's get down to the nitty gritty. The 5th of June, the events. That's what I want to know.
Can you recall the events? Yeah. Okay, let's do that. Click on that. Click on that. And
How come
take it up.
nobody asked him? How come you kept Salamakis and Messias?
Yeah.
That wasn't a topic of conversation.
So the question was, can you recollect the events of the 5th of June? Cardinale told me that Massara and I were fired. We asked why, and he said that it was due to bad relations with Furlani. Then I said, have I ever called you complaining about him? Never. There was also a joke about the semi-final loss to Inter, but the
What was the
reasons
joke?
seem.
You mentioned that, but I don't know what's the joke. Did
He
you see
says
in
he
the
cracked a
interview?
joke. He said that Cardinale cracked a joke about the semi-final loss to Inter, but the reasons seem weak. The so-called assumptions or season objectives for us were, listen to this, elimination from the Champions League, winning a knockout round in the Europa League, and qualification for next year's Champions League. Those were his set objectives. That semi-final brought 70 million euros in receipts, plus a record in sponsorship and ticket receipts. The balance sheet approved was relative to the abundantly clear 2022-2023 objectives. And then the next question following up on this was, and the controlling shareholder refused. And this must be about Cardinale. In 1 year, I spoke to him once, a chat, maybe about 4 messages. He said that we had to trust one another. I did. I think the decision to fire us was made months prior, and there were some who knew it. Our contract of 2 years with an option to renew was done on the 30th of June, 2022 at 10 p.m. I guess it was too unpopular to let us go after winning the Scudetto. So that's that one.
Yeah, of course it would have been.
Yeah. Again, that's a very, very pointed, comment. The names are there. The way, clearly, the way he was fired was just brutal, and he
For,
clearly feels like.
the one thing I want to dispute, he says Masada and I were both fired. That is
Mm,
not the way it is told. It is told that Masada resigned after Maldini was fired because he didn't want to stay on, besides the fact he was talking to Juve supposedly about maybe moving over there. There's a lot of other things. So that's kind of contradicting itself from what reports were before. Now, do I not believe that Cardinale only talked to him one time? No. Cardinale
mm.
doesn't give two fucks about this. He's a rich fuck like every other rich fuck who just has a plaything he could care less about, but he wants to see it make him more money. Now, objectives of getting knocked out and getting into the Europa League? How dare you? How dare you even put that out there? And then three, you didn't qualify for the Champions League. You only got in because of fucking Juve's bullshit. So that's, again, not a good look. Not enough to warrant firing. But what got him fired is going on CBS, opening his mouth about how we have to spend more money and looking like the belle of the ball with Thierry Henry. Basically, Thierry Henry was salivating. They were throwing themselves all over the guy.
Yeah, I
Oh,
remember.
Maldini. These guys probably pissed everybody off. Furlani, Cardinale, seeing everybody belovedly just throwing flowers at Maldini. Oh, it's such a class act. They said, get this fucking guy out of here. Otherwise, we're always going to look like the scumbags. And they couldn't fire Pioli because then it would have looked like a complete shit show. So to me, it's a bit of everything. But on the same time, never is it said like you didn't make top four. Some of the purchases you had were bogus. I mean, you're going to tell me, and this is probably one of the other things, oh, he's 21. It's a high risk of failure. Give me a fucking break, man. You
That
spent the
does come
whole
up.
budget on this guy. How can you risk everything on 35 million if your budget's only 40 and you go sign Origi and this guy, and these are the two guys you hang your hat on, and then you don't meet one of your objectives? Yes, you overshoot another one, but come on. And the only thing I don't like, and I love Maldini, is it never comes off like we didn't do enough. Like we didn't succeed. It's more of like they played me. They don't have respect for the club. I have respect for the club. All right, but you came back when it was good for you, right? You didn't come back when fucking we were owned by some ghost in Japan over there or China who had no money, right? Then you didn't come back. But you came back when Elliott was there and you could have more control and you could get things going exactly how you wanted. As soon as anything happened, immediately, you know why he was fired? And I'll tell you this now. Is because they asked for Mignon and he said no right away. And that pissed somebody off back there, saying you don't even take offers. And he mentions Tonali later in the interview too, about how Tonali, oh, we wouldn't have sold him. You should have sold him after you found out what happened. We would have been even more fucked. Besides injuries and everything else, now we got gamblers on the team. Oh my God.
Gambling
We
is.
still do. We still do, by the way. We might still have gamblers on the team.
We might still, yeah.
They're only
Husney,
playing roulette, Husney. They're playing roulette. It's different.
do you want to take the next one, Husney?
Yeah, I want to ask about this. Not Saudi. What's that? Sorry, we already did this another one. About the budget, because for me, I agree with optically it doesn't look right, yeah, because we know that we would be the club will be operating on a budget from here on out. But then we talk about Moneyball and all that. But then it seems to be like, how come we're getting players who are like easily around the 30 range? So that
Okay,
to me
so
doesn't make sense.
it said the question was, what was your budget for this season? And his answer was, by March of this year, we had not even discussed it, and you can't wait until June to prepare the market. Then 4 days before our dismissal, Forlani told me an embarrassingly low number. I took note of it. After we left, the budget doubled with the net Tonali sale. The wage bill then came into line with our plans. And then he makes a point. This must have become a source of inspiration. And that's it on that point.
How about the fact that he says you don't need an algorithm to sign players like Loftus Cheek and Pulisic and Chukwueze?
Ah, yes. So we can go to that one and link it. So the question was, what about the algorithms? And he goes, yes, you don't need an algorithm to sign RLC, Pulisic, Chukwueze. It only takes to use the money that a club that finally makes 400 million has. We cannot compare the 4 transfer windows previously with the last. We had different weapons. Sustainability, with Boban and Massaro, we cut wages by 30%. We added to the roster and increased value with a Scudetto in 3 straight years. And in the Champions League after, no, 3 straight years in the Champions League after 7 years without. So that did come up as well. So on your point, Hasdi, about Tonali, just so I'd mention it, because it was talked about quite a bit here, right? So um, Tonali, what he said about Tonali was that he didn't know about his betting problem. And he said that players are more than just they signing them and selling them is just one small part of looking after a player. And he feels quite sad about what happened to Tonali. Of course, he wouldn't have sold him because he didn't know about this gambling issue. But
He
he
also
said, yeah,
he mentioned something too, John. Sorry to interrupt, but he
yeah,
mentions that management wasn't initially in love with the idea of Teo Hernandez and
yes,
Leao and
yes.
Yeah.
I know
somebody
you
else.
wanted to. Yes, Fabio, I know you wanted to know this
And
one.
and and
So
people were a little confused because they thought they were mentioning like last season. No, he's referring to
no, no,
2019 when we bought
exactly.
them.
When you read the whole article, it actually makes sense. So he said when Tonali was embroiled in gambling, what was your reaction? He goes, I felt it was like a defeat. I didn't understand his problem or his uneasiness. You can never do enough for the kids. Acquisitions and sales are just a small part of the work. This is the truth. With Leao, Hernandez, Benacer, Manyan, Kalulu, Chow, Tomori, and many others, we actively supported their development, even though originally they were not seen as good acquisitions. So this is kind of in the context, Fabio. It is in their first season, they did not look astronomical, did they? But they came good later on, and so
I
that's
mean,
kind of the point that he's making
you
there.
had to start. Leao started with fucking Gianpaolo as the coach. All right,
Yeah.
they needed time, and then COVID happened immediately after, so it was a difficult season. And one would say until Ibrahimovic got there, they had no real structure on raising their level for these players. You know,
Yeah,
I don't know. It's a little bit of everything. It's crazy.
yeah,
Yeah, you're right,
um,
Fabio. I think before Zlatan, it looked more closer to Bante era than it did to the team that we have now. That was a
Yeah.
big difference, I thought.
mm, so which one, Hasni? You want to pick one of the
I'll
remaining
talk about the
ones?
stadium because I know stadium is mixed
Stadium, yeah.
headlines.
So let me pick on the stadium, see where it takes us. So the new stadium, question mark. We clashed here. I couldn't front a project for just 55 to 60,000 seats, almost all corporate. I fought for a larger stadium with sections for the public. Given the average attendance of over 70,000 at San Siro, I was right. Then the next question was, what was your idea? With a new San Siro and with more greenery, we can add value to an area at risk of being abandoned. Milan is a driving force in Europe. We have to fear its degradation, not the future. Great champions raised an iconic stadium, but that is the past, and Milan has always looked to the future. So that was his comment on the stadium.
But don't you
I
think that this topic also is touching on Scaroni's job scope, yeah? Because he's the stadium man. So the fact that first you attack the guy, then you attack his work and what he's fighting for. I mean, that's a double whammy right there.
I mean, I don't quite understand what his meaning is more corporate. So what, to have more luxury seats like they do in America, that would be a bad thing? I get like you're fighting for the average Joe to be able to go see, and we appreciate that. But all in all, we're still at the same point. We're in a decaying stadium with no real future of having a new stadium. And we're going to be in the same limbo over and over and over again for decades with this stupid fucking league if we don't get our own stadium. Like, it is a necessity. However you do it, it needs to be completed. So if you're fighting, and if there is any movement and you're saying, oh, that's not exactly good for the everyday people, you're again putting us behind the eight ball. I don't care how it would have been. If it would have been 55 seats, 55,000 seats, at least it would have been jam packed. And yeah, maybe it would have been a little more luxury seats, and that was against what he thought should be. But who gives a shit at this point? Get the new stadium. That's all that matters.
Okay.
That's all I say. Listen, if you're going to tell me that the difference is about 10,000 seats for the average Joes, who I promise you won't show up if the team doesn't play well, but if the team plays well, the stadium's going to be packed. And a smaller stadium packed every game, which we get all the revenue from, is way more valuable than continuing playing in that fucking decrepit San Siro. I'm sorry. I've been there. Go take a piss. I promise you won't ever want to go back in there again.
But you touched on a good point there, Fabio, is that this is not his job scope, yeah? So Maldini
No.
is also commenting about things that actually he has nothing to do with, even if he was on there on a day-to-day basis. So I'm sensing more emotion rather than, you could say, objective or constructive criticism of the club.
Next time Maldini goes to the stadium, if he decides to go, you better not dare sit in one of those luxury seats. All right, you better go sit with the people because that's what you wanted so bad.
I think this kind of leads nicely to that question of what did Cardinale ask for, all right? So I'm just going to click on that, right? Because that's an interesting one. So what did Cardinale ask of you? He said, to win the Champions League, I explained that I needed a 3-year plan. From October to February, I prepared it alongside a consultant friend of mine, Emma Sara. We made a 35-page sustainable strategy document which outlined the need to have a leap in quality. I sent this document to Jerry and 2 of his close collaborators and Forlani. And then the interviewer says, what about the response to it? And he goes, none. Of 35 acquisitions, they contested CDK, who was 21. When you select players that young, the likelihood of them succeeding is lower. You have to wait, help them, hold them. There's a word in there, even says hug them. Anyway, after 3 months of work, Boban, Massara, and me were called to London by the owners and the CEO and practically delegitimized. They did not like Leao, Benacer, and Theo initially, but we were following a path and must always remember where we started from. So yeah, that's to your point, Fabio.
First of all, hug them, hold them. All this. Listen, in America, you might have like a class action lawsuit coming. All this touching he's talking about. All right. All I'm saying is that, right, Maldini, as good as he was, and for all the great things that he did for us, to me, all of this seems like, you could have made it into a book and put it out like a year or 2 years from now. You dropped it when we just dropped a stinker after the Champions League just to kind of save face a little bit. There's nothing that could have happened. The only thing that would have happened is if you didn't go on TV and you didn't tell everybody that we need to spend more money. To me, I just think this is all bad blood, man. It's all bad blood, but I'll let you guys continue.
Yeah. So I'm talking about bad blood. Do you want to hear about the comment on Pioli?
Yeah,
let's see. Because there's a comment there from the interviewer saying, now everything is on Pioli's shoulders. And Maldini said, I'm thankful for him. He has been fundamental for the young players. But the coach is the loneliest person in football. Giving him tasks that are above his role without support will make him even lonelier. Now, if you remember, this week, Pioli came out with a comment saying, I don't feel alone. I don't feel unsupported. And it's a direct answer, quite obviously, to this comment. Now, the interviewer did well here because they went back and said, well, didn't you want to replace him with Pirlo? And Maldini's comment was, my role involves frequent comparisons. With Pioli, we were already doing this for the following season. He deserved a renewal to 2025. And in time, if we found unity in vision and intent with the club's objectives, I don't see why we would have had to change him. So that's on Pioli, guys.
I just want to say one thing because I missed this on the last thing he said. Imagine if your teacher tells you to write a fucking 10-page report and you do it, and when you hand it in, he just expels you from the class before even reading it. That's what this is like, the balls to have asked for something. You knew you were going to fire the guy. That's fucked up, man. I would have scorched the earth too. But Pioli, yeah, of course it's all on him now. They come out, first of all, Pioli is sponsored by T-Mobile, Verizon, and AT&T because he was on the hotline all summer. Supposedly, he was calling all the free agents, right? That's what they said. So, yeah, it's all on him because he's a scapegoat this year. As soon as it doesn't go the way they hope it's going to go, which it's inevitably gonna, come on, this is Milan. That's what they do. They give us this indigestion fucking 24/7 for 10 months out of the year, maybe even 12. It's gonna fall on him and he's gonna feel lonely because when you get fired, no, you know what, he's not gonna be lonely. They're gonna take that physio with him because he's been with them for fucking 12
And
years. They're gonna
and
fire
Krunic.
him and take him out and take Krunic too.
And Krunic. That's
Hopefully
good, man.
Krunic will be gone in January.
Apparently
It's
he
gonna be
is.
a blue.
Apparently he's being looked at seriously now by
Good.
the Turkish club.
Good. Hopefully
Yeah.
it's the
Yeah,
same
thumbs up.
amount of money that they wanted to give in the summer, which we didn't want to give them up for.
Yeah. So we've only got 2 points left. Working in Saudi on Ibra's return. Which one do you want to look at? Hasni, you choose.
Yeah, Saudi, but yeah, I think this
Yeah,
is quite straightforward.
Ibra thing doesn't matter, honestly.
Yeah.
What's he going to talk about Ibra return now?
So, will you become an executive in Saudi Arabia? And he says, alternative options in Milan are limited, and I will never go to another Italian club. It will only be for a foreign club of a particularly high level. I like winning and building. Arabia, who knows? It could be an idea. The next question was, did your dynasty end on the 5th of June? He said, I don't know. A bond of 36 years is too strong and will last forever. History isn't wiped. I want to say thank you to this life and to Milan. I see a new era, a Berlusconi 2.0, a refresh from Italian history of the last 40 years, both politically and entrepreneurially. I said before I left, you are in charge, but please respect Milan's history. Crazy.
Yeah, wise words from the man himself.
Yeah. I mean, and on Ibra, there was nothing really. The Ibra stuff was just like one sentence, which was, I may suggest to him that at first it would be logical to observe and learn.
Yeah, you have to do the same. No doubt.
Listen,
Yeah.
I would just say this, all right? If this guy takes a job at Napoli or something like that in a couple of years, all right, I'm not going to believe anything he says because bullshit talks, bullshit walks, money talks. That's all that matters, all right? If this guy really wants to be a front office guy to help build teams, there's no reason why you'd say, no, I wouldn't do anything in Italy. All right, I mean, come on, man. I get it, you're a Milanista, you don't want, but, you know, Ancelotti coached Juve, he coached Napoli, he coached the other teams. You could be a diehard Milanista and you still go out there, you take the job. So when he goes out there and he signs with ADL as his sporting director, let you know that Fabio was here and told you first it was going to happen. I don't believe nothing no more, all right, because they're going to take the money and that's all that fucking matters.
Well, don't we all wish we also had the same amount of money being offered to us?
He's going to end up in Saudi. If they throw the amount of money they're throwing at these has-been players for one of the biggest names in history,
Yeah.
of course he's going to go there.
As long as he doesn't go Man United, I don't want him there. That's horrible.
Listen, if he goes to United and changes their fortune around, everybody will have to give him another. You can differentiate the player that you loved when he wore the number 3 with the red and black to the sporting director. These are two different things, okay? They're not the same. I know it's the same person, but they're not the same. As a fan, all we care about are the colors. That's it. The name on the back doesn't matter to us. So, as far as I'm concerned, he did what he was supposed to do as sporting director. It didn't end the way he probably would have liked to. But in the end, with these things, they're going to end only two ways. Either you win forever and you retire on your own terms, or you get fired. If you don't want one of those two outcomes, don't hire any of your former players.
Yeah, fair point. I mean, it happened to all legends, but we don't wish it to happen again. This is, if I can just add that on. All right. So
right.
I just want to say thanks to John for definitely a lot of good
Great work,
and
John.
very
Great work.
informative. This is all John's analysis and everything, so invaluable to us and also
All
the
right,
Milan
guys.
community.
I thought it was
thanks to-
important, to have some context there with the full paper instead of just snippets. So yeah, let's hope you guys liked it. Everyone watching
I
Yeah.
live.
loved it, John. I loved it.
All right,
You really
Appreciate
were
it.
in the
And thanks
lab with that one.
in the lab.
and thanks Fabio for being here with us
Thank you,
today.
guys. Listen, I've been under the weather. I couldn't do our pregame shit, and you know, we don't go on until Wednesday. So I was a pleasure to finally actually have some time to jump
Get
on
well
with you
soon, man.
guys.
Get well soon,
I
bro.
want
Yeah,
to
get
thank
well soon,
Shane
Sean.
for showing up too. You know, thank you, Shane. Really appreciate it.
He's moving. He's moving house. He's moving house. He's got a very good excuse, man.
Oh, I got
We
that.
gotta have a
I
new
heard that
studio.
story.
Okay.
But thank
And
you
with
for
that,
having me, guys.
Cheers.
yeah. Thanks to everyone, and yeah, thanks for those tuning in. And please catch us on YouTube and also our other socials, and even they might not be that well updated. So again, Forza Milan as always.
Forza Milan.
Forza
Bye
Milan.
everyone.
Peace.
Italia è finita!